Hello and welcome to Tomlin's Harmonica podcast, where I'll be hanging out with players and teachers and having conversations loosely based around harmonica. This week's podcast is part of a series where I'll be interviewing beginners instead of pros, so that you can hear what it's like starting out on the harmonica journey. Although this week's guest John has been playing for 30 years, he's recently realized he needs to go back to the beginning and strengthen his foundations. All right, well, welcome to the podcast, John. Thank you so much for agreeing to take part in this.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
So before we get started, I've got a few questions I want to ask you, but before we start with those, will you just tell us a little bit about you, so kind of where you're from and what you do and all that?
Yeah, I live in a place called Billingham, near Middlesbrough, in Teesside, in the northeast of England. And actually, I've lived here, I'm 65, I've lived here all my life. I was born about 3 miles down the road. I lived in this house here since we were married 42 years ago. I worked on the road 7 miles away, so I haven't been very far in my working life. A nuclear power station down the road from here, Hartlepool. Worked there for 39 years, and I've just retired from there a couple of years ago. So basically, I'm an electrician by trade, and started playing the harmonica a long time when I was about, in the early 80s I started playing. In the early 80s, you know. When I was at school, when I was a lad at school, it was during the mod era, you know. Mm-hmm. And bands like the Yardbirds and Paul Jones, you know, Manfred Mann, Rolling Stones, and they all had harmonica players, which I loved the sound of it, you know. But it took me years to find out that it was the tenor diatonic that was the one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you used to get harmonicas for Christmas with the tremolo ones and trying to play blues on them, impossible, you know. And no internet back in the day. You couldn't find out anything from the internet. You had to ask musicians, and some of them wouldn't tell you, you know. I eventually found out the 12-hole was the one to get, so I got that from a local toy shop, actually. That was in the mid-80s, and then I get to figure out second position. I didn't know, you know, because it was in the key of C.
Uh-huh.
Listening to records, putting the stylus on, and then going back over and all that stuff, you know, learning like that purely by ear. Then I went to a local club one night there, local club, and the owner had been a harmonica player in a band in the 60s, and he told me what to do, and he said, well, come to the club next week, there's a band on with a good harmonica player, and the band was called the Blues Burglars, and it was Paul Lamb. You know,
oh, wow. Paul Lamb. Yeah.
Paul Lamb, the King Snakes. That was his first band. Well, one of his early bands before the King Snakes. It was he was playing, and I taught to Paul. And it was the first time I'd seen someone with a bullet mic, you know, and all that. But prior to that, I got into when I was still at school when I was 15. I got into I liked Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. Big fan of theirs, you know.
Uh-huh.
I had one of their records, trying to play along, trying to learn it with the harmonica, the wrong harmonica and everything. And then they came to in 1971, they did a blues tour with a load of them on the bill. Booker White was on the bill, Champion Jack Dupree. They were top of the bill. So I was really looking forward to seeing Sonny Terry. I couldn't wait to see my hero. And then, but before him was a band on called the Chicago Blues All Stars, and Willie Dixon was the bass player. And the harmonica player was no kidding, yeah, Willie Dixon, and the harmonica player was Big Walter.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know anything about him, and he came on. I was looking forward to seeing Sonny Terry top of the bill, and he was fantastic. But when Walter came on, the sound he got with the harp, I couldn't believe it. You know, I was 15. It was a long time ago, but I'm sure he was playing just through the PA, not the amp, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that I thought, well, I thought I want to have to learn how to do this and try and master it and find out how he does it. But for years I was convinced he had some kind of special effects going on. Mm-hmm. And obviously he didn't. He was that good a player, you know. So yeah, then I sort of Lammy a few years later, Paul Lamb, and then started from there, you know. But really, just there was no internet them days, and you had to learn by just trial and error, you know.
Yeah.
And so basically, I've been playing all those years, but I still think I'm a beginner because I knew nothing about music theory at all. Nothing, not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. I joined a band. I was in a band for 16 years, and when I joined the band, I had about maybe 10 licks, you know.
Uh-huh.
And basically, I winged it for all those years in that band, with learning a few more licks and getting a bit better. But really, that was it. Now I've retired, I thought, well, it's time to delve a bit deeper, and that's why I joined your school. So now I'm finding it really, as far as music theory is concerned, I'm an absolute beginner, but I'm enjoying learning, picking it up and learning it.
That's good. That's good. I mean, it's kind of interesting because you're people starting to learn now. If someone picks up a harmonica or any instrument now, it's so easy to find a million great teachers and different ways to learn because you do have the internet. But I'm listening to you describe going to see Willie Dixon play and Big Walter and Sonny Terry and Paul Lamb. I mean, we can still see Paul Lamb, but none of those other guys. And like just the idea that you saw Big Walter live,
that was incredible.
mind blowing. That's
The
very
Dalek
cool.
Man. Yeah.
Absolutely nuts.
So the first harmonica player I ever saw was the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you just don't. Well, certainly in the UK, you don't see huge amounts of great harmonica players these days.
No, you
There's
don't. No.
there are the Paul Lambs and the Giles Robsons and a
Yeah.
few others, but the circuit isn't like that anymore.
Isn't it was in the mid to late 80s, early 90s. It was great. There's a couple of blues clubs just not far from where I live, and you go every week and see someone really great.
Hmm.
Your Giles Robsons and your Johnny Marrs, people like that.
Yeah.
All those people. Yeah, yeah,
That's so cool. So, I mean, you piqued my interest when I put out a post in the forum saying that you've got 30 years of experience, but you found out that you're a beginner, and
yeah.
I think you're probably selling yourself very short, but you're probably in a position that a lot of people are, where you've got a lot of musical ability naturally because you've learned by ear, but you don't necessarily know what it is that you're doing.
That's right. Yeah.
And I mean, does that put you off playing with people? Does that put you off playing?
No, not at all. But not at all. It doesn't at all. But it kind of limits. I think it limits me. A bit. I managed for all those years in the band, and but for example, we used to play House of the Rising Sun in the band,
Hmm.
and it was in D minor. So I had to go and get an A minor harp and play the second position to
Uh-huh.
play D, and I didn't know I could play it in third position on a C. Probably I
Yeah.
didn't try, but so things like that. So the thing was, it's every time you get a CD or a DVD or an instructional video or something, they always assume you've got a little bit of musical knowledge, and
Yeah.
if you've got zero musical knowledge, it's difficult. But on your course, it's you go really back to basics. So that's why I'm finding it quite enjoyable. And even though I've been playing for 30 odd years, I thought I would start. I always knew I wasn't an advanced player. I thought intermediate. I
Hmm.
would describe myself as intermediate player. And so I went on the intermediate course at first, and I thought, no, there's stuff here I don't really know. So I went back and back to the beginner. And I thought, well, no, I'm going to start right from scratch and skip through the course until I find my level.
Yeah.
But after a few days, I thought I wasn't really skipping anything
Hmm.
because I mean, like for example, like the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, I didn't know anything about that. Even
Yeah.
though I've been playing for all these years, I played purely by instinct, listening to 12-bar blues.
Hmm.
And when the guitar player would nod, I'd come in 12 bars and little fills in between. And then you learn when to come in and when to stop. But I found it really interesting to learn about the actual way it's all built up. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's hampered me really, but I wanted to get a knowledge of
Hmm.
fundamentals. So that's why I joined.
Yeah. I think one thing that you need to be kind of pleased with is the fact that you have put all that time into your ear training, because music theory will come quite quickly. You study it and apply it. It won't be that difficult for you to pick up. The
Right.
thing that takes a long time is the thing you've already done. You've sat and you've worked things out by ear, and you've practiced playing by ear and by feel.
Yeah.
And if I ask 90% of my students why they want to play harmonica, it's so they can go and play in a band. So you're already in a position where you can do that.
Yeah.
Um, I totally get the thing of wanting some more music theory, and I'm definitely not going to say you don't need music theory, because I'm a music teacher and I think music theory is brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's you've already done a lot of the hard work, which is very cool.
Mm. But not only that, it's not only the theory, it's the embedded bad habits you get from learning like I did.
Hmm.
And things like not always playing clean notes, for example,
Yeah.
or starting on a double stop and then slurring into the right note. You know what I mean? The kind of thing where you play a double, you might play a four or five, you've got to go back down to the four,
Yeah.
to correct yourself. Uh, Things like that. I mean, it wasn't until I listened to your podcast with Lee Sankey was one of them, and the last one, Veed Gobach,
Uh-huh.
when he said, it's people who learn to play by ear and wing it in a band like I have, and the more or less, the more you practice, you're not getting anywhere that much, because you've only got so much knowledge. Are you with
Hmm.
me? So if you have a little bit more knowledge and get rid of some bad habits and better breathing and all that, I think it's a good way to go.
Yeah. I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant that you're doing that, because I think a lot of people are quite scared of music theory, and
Yeah.
if they're experienced, they're quite scared of going back to their foundations. Did you experience that at all?
I did. It's difficult. I mean, just to. I mean, like you said in some of your podcasts, it's easy to just put on a thing on YouTube and play along with it and have a good time. Think, oh, I've really practiced it. I've done
Hmm.
well there, but yeah, you haven't really practiced at all. To go back and do like the simple 12 bar blues that you teach in the early part of your course, I've found it difficult to do them. To follow the tab and
Hmm.
do it like that. I've never done that. That's always been in my head. So like I did find it difficult, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
the challenge. Right. Yeah.
That's great. So I want to try and get you to go back in your mind to sort of early days of playing. I was wondering kind of what was the biggest struggle at the beginning?
Learning the bend notes was a
Hmm.
struggle. Well, once you get that, but I found I've since found I haven't even got all the bends, because like with the three draw, I can get the first two, I can't get the last one.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know I wasn't getting that, but I'm not. Learn the bend, playing single notes, I found that very difficult. It's so easy to just slur everything and get that chordy sound.
Yeah.
And you've got to really stick in and do that, and it gets boring and all that, but that's what you have to do. And also with back in the day with no internet and no, I struggled to find the right key harp.
Mm.
I put a record on, and it might be on a little Walter or someone, and play along in the C harp. And next thing, the same song, he changes harps and it goes wrong. And you wonder what's going on there. And it was obviously he's changed his harp or something. But yeah, bending notes and playing the single notes are the most tricky things for me when I started.
Hmm.
But people, if you persevere, you will get there. You will get there in the end. If you keep doing it. Yeah.
Definitely. I think the thing is being aware of what the timelines are like for most people. And I think at the beginning, you know that you need to learn how to play clean notes, but no one says that it might take you months,
Oh,
years.
yes, yeah, absolutely. It does, yeah. Yeah, the results are incremental. You've got to keep going, and sometimes you think you're getting nowhere. Then one week later, that bit will click into place, and you can kick on from there. So yeah, I mean, people shouldn't be disheartened, because if it can be done. It can be
Definitely.
done.
So you kind of you've decided to go back to your foundations and build them up again. What are you hoping to achieve with that? What's your kind of next big goal?
Well, I've never played in third position, so I want to do that. I want to learn that. I think that's I think something for uh, different styles of funk and styles like that. Third position
Hmm.
is a great way to play, but of course the muscle memory for second position is so ingrained into my head now.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not gonna dive straight in and do it. I'm gonna work through the course till I come to that bit and
Hmm.
learn it like that, because I think by doing that I'll have learned the learning process will have embedded in my brain, and I might be able
Yeah.
to follow it rather than just dive in, and do it. So I want to play the third position. I wanted even things like the tone. I want a better tone. I used to think tone was if you bought a Fender Blues Deluxe and you got a the right kind of mic, that would give you tone, but it doesn't at all. It's all here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all in your mouth. I mean, the way you embouchure and everything like that. The gear is secondary.
Mm.
So don't let anyone tell you you need posh gear, but you need decent stuff. But that won't give you the tone buying the top mic and on the amp. You need the practice to get it, which I'm getting there with it. But I'd love to get a nice fat tone like Madison Slim or someone like that. Or someone who's really that kind of player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really good. It's really good for people to hear you saying that, because I say it all the time to people when people say, what amplifier should I buy, and what microphone's going to make me sound amazing, and it's basically if you put a top player through the cheapest, nastiest amp and
Right.
a crap microphone, they're still going to sound killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's the technique.
This technique. I don't know if you know a band called 900.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mark, our player. Our band supported them a couple of times, and he had an SM57 and a little microphone preamp, cheap little thing, and he sounded great. He sounded fantastic, and it was just when you put that to one side and played to the PA, it sounded just the same.
Yeah.
So it isn't anything to do with the gear. So don't waste thousands of pounds on a bass, man. It's not worth it.
Definitely, and also, I mean, just a bassman, if you have one, and you try and get it to a volume where it sounds good, you can't be in the same room with it. It's too loud.
Well, yeah, and everyone complains about the harmonica player being too loud. I have a Blues Deluxe upstairs, but I stopped using it in the band because he couldn't play. It was just too loud. He was just drowning everyone else out. And so yeah, definitely learn to play. Get a nice tone acoustically first before you start moving on like that.
Yeah. That's absolutely crucial. Very cool. One thing I also wanted to ask you is how you've practiced in the past and how you're practicing now, and if that's changed.
Well, it's changed absolutely. Yeah, I never really used to practice in the past. I used to listen to records, and then when CDs came out, and try and imitate that. Backwards and forwards with a CD player and learn that Sonny Williamson or James Scott, whoever it was. Learn that riff, learn that lick, build it up, and that I thought that was the way I used to do it. And then when I was in the band, we used to rehearse. Rehearsing is not the same as practicing, is it?
No.
People say, "Oh, we've had a band practice. They've had a rehearsal." So that's why. And then I went onto YouTube with all these people like yourself, Will Wild, Adam Gusso, all these people. I was watching them and thinking, the thing is, you dip in and out of this, and you never on actual course. You dip in and you think, today I'm going to do some tone work with one of these cellists, and you do a bit of that, and someone else is doing something else. It's never practice,
Yeah.
So now I thought, well, what I have to do is practice every day, do scales, which I've never done before, scales, proper breathing, do that every day, even if it's only for half an hour, And that's discipline, which I've never done before. So that's the big change. Yeah, that's why I found out I'm actually a beginner, not in that sense of the word. Learning skills, the blues scale. First time I did that was a few months ago. After all these years, So yeah,
that's very cool. I mean, you're definitely not a beginner. You're like a lot of people. And I was definitely in this camp as well, kind of musically, where if you're self-taught, you work on things that you're interested in, and so you might get pretty advanced on this thing, and then not so advanced on the foundation. So there are gaps that need to be filled in, which is what you're doing, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I kind of wanted to know if there's anything anything you're really struggling with now that you want to know about, or if you have any questions. While I'm here.
I'm a bit, I mean, I don't know whether to post. The reason I haven't posted much on the forum is because I'm in the beginner class. I don't. People, I put something on everything. What's he doing in the beginner? He's looking to make him play all right, So I don't. So I'm a bit dubious about putting stuff on. I might post something from the band, from my band days some years ago, and say this is how it sounded back then, And when I get to the end of this module, whatever the 12 bar blues is at the end of the beginner's module, I'll learn that properly and post that as well, something like that, But so, yeah, I mean, I'm not struggling. I'm not actually struggling with anything, but it's just knowing what the right things to post on the forum. I don't want to be a big shot on there. Say, look, we can already play,
I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, there are, even within different levels. So for people who don't know how the forum works, on my harmonica school, there's a section for beginners, advanced beginners, intermediate, and advanced intermediate. Yeah. And so I get the issue that you're describing is you're maybe a more advanced player, but you'd be posting in the beginner section. Yes. I wouldn't worry about that. I would post some stuff, because a big part of learning, especially when you start getting into these kind of practice routines, is getting the feedback. So if I can say, your rhythm is spot on, but this thing needs tweaking, or this, then that's going to be really helpful.
That's exactly what I made, yeah.
So don't worry about it.
Right. I'll do it then. I'll do it, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, right.
Very cool. Well, this has been really interesting, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today. No I'm sure the listeners will find it really interesting and useful to hear a story like that. Right. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and
thank you. Thanks
catch you later. And I'm looking out for recordings from you. So
right, I'll do it. I'll post. I'll start post. Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant. All right. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tomlin's Harmonica Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. Join me next Monday for the next episode. Happy harping!